Sisters, a little while ago, I did a video with Dave Hill called What Were You Thinking? And the response to that video was really great. Thank you guys for watching. And a lot of people asked for me to do another one. So I found another player who I really enjoy watching, Zach Huddleston, who is the co-artistic director of the IO West here in Los Angeles. Someone who I really enjoy watching, who I think is really fun player. He's on a team called Heyday, but I've seen him on a bunch of other teams over the years, and I think he's just really fun. And so I approached him, and he luckily said yes. And so today, here is the second installment of a little bit we call What Were You Thinking? So please sit back, relax, and enjoy me and Zach Huddleston. Great. And so first suggestion, can we have the first object that comes to mind when I say the word success?
A trophy.
Trophy. Great, fantastic. Oh, I can't. Thank you so much. I mean, this really means the world to me, Don.
You earned it, Greg.
You've been like my mentor and tough love, and sometimes I thought you hated my guts.
Yeah, there were a lot of times I did hate your guts.
Yeah, I felt that. I really felt. But this really, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
This piston represents your progress as a certified ASC mechanic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I thought maybe we'd do it in front of the guys, but just in your office, just privately that's really recognition.
Look at that piston.
Yeah.
Okay, look at that.
It's really, that's a really good likeness of a piston, man. And look, I know there was those times you hated me, and I felt it, and oftentimes, I'll be honest, I went home crying.
Okay, yeah, that softness is what I really hated.
Oh.
So, yeah, that pulls a lot of anger out of me when I see how weak you can be.
I guess I should have said
Nope.
it.
Nope. Not now, Greg.
Greg,
nope.
Get it together, Greg.
Not now, Greg. Not now, okay?
No, hey.
Buck up.
I'm an ASC certified mechanic, sir.
That's right. You work at Midas.
Yes. Can I? Thank you. I'm gonna go home and I'm just gonna look at this and growl at it, sir.
That's right. No weakness.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for making me a better mechanic, and thanks for making me a better man.
Oh, let's tighten up there. Tighten up. Yep. Bigger. Squeeze. Good. Good.
Scene. So let's go ahead and watch the scene back and see what we were thinking. Great. And so first suggestion, can we have the first object that comes to mind when I say the word success?
A trophy.
Trophy. Great, fantastic. Oh, I can't.
I grabbed a trophy.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I wanted something active to start with.
I think that's great, and I think it's sort of really, I thought that was really great because it just sort of brought us right into the thing. It's like that moment of handing the trophy, that's such a dynamic moment. So right away, I was like, oh gosh, I'm getting the trophy, so what is that? I was thinking like, what does that mean about us? And I thought you were a higher status, so I tried to sort of, be a little more deferential, and so I think you giving me the trophy like really set up that dynamic. Like right from the beginning, that object, there's an improv tip that I'll post a link to about status versus each other, but then also status versus the space. And I think this object set up a status thing between the two of us. And I was thinking that when you were handing it to me, I was like, oh, okay, he's like higher than me because he's giving me the trophy.
Yeah, great.
Right? Thank you so much. I mean, this really means the world to me, Don.
You earned it, Greg.
You've been like my mentor and tough love, and sometimes I thought you hated my guts.
Yeah, there were a lot of times I did hate your guts.
Great. So in this part where you're like, you earned it, like this sort of the double point, like sort of, there's a lot of different ways you can give someone a trophy, and this was like almost like an aggressive way. Or like I read it. I made a decision based on hhis physicality. I made a decision of like this kind of like, you earned it, is like kind of cheerleader, but kind of like a mean cheerleader.
Yeah,
so then I say that gift. It means a lot to me, and even the tough love.
That's great, because I wasn't thinking that in the moment, but then the second you give me this gift of like, there's a lot of times you hated my guts, because like I had this sense of like, oh, there's maybe a little pride, maybe a little fatherly or patrician or whatever.
Sure.
And then the second, I'm like, oh, I'm fatherly in like a angry, disapproving kind of father way. Maybe.
Right, but I think that's how a scene works. Is you're putting out something, and then I make a decision about what I'm reading off of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In the very first improv tip, playing Paranoid, I sort of talk about the idea of make a decision and act as though it's true. So I got that vibe. I made that decision. I think sometimes people do a little pussyfooting around of like, I don't want to step on their feet of like what they're, step on their toes is what we say in America, is I don't want to step on their toes and their decision, blah, blah. But I, as a player, and you tell me, but as a player, for me, when I say something and someone makes a decision, like locks it down, I'm like, great.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Whatever it is, the opposite of what I was thinking, the same as what I was thinking,
Yes.
It's perfect either way.
Because then we're now, this is what it is. I tell my students all the time, I rarely ever come backstage and like, hey, you're making too many decisions. I'm always like, come on, let's get it, whenever we have that backstage. But then great, and then I say, with the oftentimes you hated me, and then you just leaned right into that thing, and I thought that was really great.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, now we're on to something.
Yeah, I felt that. I really felt. But this really, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
This piston represents your progress as a certified ASC mechanic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean,
That was great. That decision of like, again, another great big decision. Decisions really carry the day, I think. And that really great decision of, this is a piston and we're mechanics, and it's like an office trophy. Like that was like gigantic for me, because then I see what you're wearing, I see what I'm wearing. I'm sort of like, I got what the trophy is. I kind of now sort of making decisions about where we are and stuff like this. I thought that was a really great decision.
Yeah.
And what prompted you to make that choice? Did you feel like, we're sort of vaguing around it a little bit and we just need to nail it down, or?
Yeah, which I mean, that was like the fifth line of the scene. So
Yeah.
we weren't
for
being
sure.
too bad. Yeah, but I was like, this is a moment where to make this a more specific,
Yes.
possibly. Yeah, so I picked pistons and mechanics, I guess. Yeah.
I thought that was great. And then I was holding it, and I was like, suddenly it's like, and it like came into focus, And I think that's how it worked for me as an improviser. When those decisions are made, it's like this thing, just like the lens turns and whoosh, and now it's in super sharp focus, and I'm ready to move forward boldly. Because I'm not sort of feeling around anymore. I can see what's happening, and I'm moving in that direction.
Yeah, and I guess like something else that was in my mind was like I felt like it was an office or an employment
Great.
situation, possibly. Like it wasn't a father giving something to a son. Didn't even for some reason it didn't seem sports to me.
Yeah.
Right, to give an individual trophy to somebody and like I might have hated you didn't jive. So I was like, this is some kind of like employee of the month or something.
Yeah,
like that,
I thought
right?
that was really great.
I thought maybe we do it in front of the guys, but just in your office, just privately that's really recognition.
Great. So then I say that line about I thought we'd do it in front of the guys, but privately is fine, sort of heightening how much you don't like me.
Right. Great
Like
gift.
even though you're giving me this trophy, I try to frame it out in light of what's happened so far. Of like you don't like me, so it's kind of like a private ceremony or whatever.
Well, and that's so great too, because that kind of takes like something that could be a little inactive. You used to hate me or something like that, right? And like for my character, it makes it even more present,
Yes.
right? Even in giving you a trophy, I'm being a little passive aggressive,
Right.
a little like diminutive towards you. or
I think
whatever.
that's super important, is keeping it in the now, in this moment between us, that the thing is happening now. Because if we're talking about a situation that was, then let's flash back to that situation or whatever. Yeah.
Look at that piston.
Yeah.
Okay, look at that.
That's a really good likeness of a piston, man. And look, I know there was those times you hated me, and I felt it, and oftentimes, I'll be honest, I went home crying.
Great. So I say the thing about crying because I realize that I sort of don't know a ton about my character, so I make this big decision about my character, sort of bouncing, like sort of returning to what we had said before, but bouncing off that, and what is that, how do I feel about that, or what does that mean about me? And for you to hate me and see me so strong, I tried to sort of maybe go the opposite and like, I would go home and cry about it and just see kind of how that would ping you. But now that I've got that, I've sort of made that decision about myself, that I'm sort of sensitive.
Yeah, which is great. It gives me such a fun gift.
Right,
about what
and
I'm
you
about
sort
to
of
say,
come
yeah.
right back on it.
Yeah, that softness is what I really hated. So yeah, that pulls a lot of anger out of me.
Great, and what I love about that you did was I sort of put that gift out there, and you just accept it as reality. It's not even like sort of taking it in. It's just like, this is it. That has always been the case, and it's sort of I think when that happens in a scene, it implies backstory that we don't have to invent. And it sort of reminds us that backstory or whatever sort of support or evidence we need is there. We just need to reach out and grab it.
Yeah.
And then sort of like it goes from 2D to 3D almost, you know?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love that metaphor. And like something I was thinking about in the moment, right? Like characters can have like their point of view, or their emotion, or game, however you want to refer to it, right? But it's always so much more active and fun when like ours are intertwined, right? And your emotion turns on my emotion, which turns on yours, or whatever.
I think that was great to sort of link us together like two gears that turn each other. I thought was a really great decision because now it's not like, oh, my thing's out this way and your thing's out this way, and we're sort of playing in parallel. Now we're really enmeshed and we're really playing with each other. And I think that's really where it happens.
When I see how weak you can be,
I guess I should have.
Nope.
Great. And so then once you sort of like bounce back like, oh, that's what I hate about you, then I'm like, oh, then I got to do that because that pushes your button and that pushes my button. So then like I will now do what I've said, and now it's kind of happening, right?
That's what, again, a nice way to make it right now, and not just like, oh, I often do this or I always do this, right? Oh, of course, right now is even better.
Right,
and that instantly like kind of like allows me to get angry at you or whatever.
Right, because I think that it's important to say, or I say this all the time in the tips, but you say it, but then you got to play it. Right? If that's your thing, you got to do that thing. Otherwise, it's hearsay, and that's kind of what we do. And I think that's what's really fun because it amps you up right away, it amps me up right away, and then we're doing that thing, which I think is really, really exciting. And I think you should always try to show your gifts so it's not hearsay. Oh, and one other thing. So, back on your idea of like, oh, this past or this future thing or whatever, I try to tell my students and the tipsters all the time that if you're ever going to do it now. Like if that was your thing that you did 10 years ago, let's do it now. Also, there's an improv tip about this. Oh gosh, Molly Erdman says this one about therapy. About therapy. When you watch the tip, you'll see. But it's like, oh, you used to do this in high school. That makes me feel this way now. Same thing. I remember that time that you hated me, and that makes me feel this way now. And it's a great way to pull that backstory into the present and activate it.
Not now, Greg. Nope.
Get it together, Greg.
Not now, Greg.
Great. So let's talk about that little moment. I'm fixated on the trophy, and you take the trophy, and then you take it again. What are you thinking in that moment? Because you're at a crux, right? You're at a crossroads. Do I repeat it and take the trophy again, or do I not? What's the calculus that you're doing on that?
Yeah. Well, and just in the moment, I'm just like, he didn't see it. Let me do it again.
Yeah.
I think in hindsight now, from the vantage point of 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh, these guys probably have hands covered in grease. Right. My hands slipped off or whatever, right? But I didn't. In the moment, I'm just like, he didn't see it. Let me do it again. I think I also probably could have done it in a way to get like more into your peripheral.
Maybe so, maybe no. But I think the equation that you're sort of parsing out that we do sometimes is like, do I call attention to that mistake or do I just play boldly on? And I think playing boldly on, what you did, is the thing, because once we get to that thing, once we get to that moment, and then you pull it, and then when I do see it, when I catch up to you, then that's a great decision, because now the trophy that's the sort of the impetus of this scene, or the sort of the totem between us, is now, oh my gosh, now it's in play again. I think that's super exciting. I think it was totally worth it. Sometimes we sort of like, you walk through a table or whatever, and I always sort of like tell my students, like, you got to measure the steak and the peas. Like, do you really want to sort of like derail the scene to talk about the peas when this is really the steak of the relationship, And I think it's nice. You just sort of like effortlessly do it again, and I think the audience like totally, yeah, great. And then they just totally like, it's a tiny thing, and they sort of go with it, and I think it was great because when I saw it, I was like, oh shit, and I thought it like boom, 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 like really elevated the scene. So I think it was totally, for me at least, it was totally worth it. But I get it. You're sort of like, do I try to explain it away?
Not now, okay?
I guess for sure that's a tricky part.
No, hey, buck up. I'm an ASC certified mechanic, sir. That's right. You work at Midas.
Yes. Thank you. I'm gonna go home and I'm just gonna look at this and growl at it, sir.
That's right. No weakness.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for making me a better mechanic, and thanks for making me a better man.
Oh, tighten up there. Tighten up. Yep. Bigger. Squeeze. Good.
See, great. So even that moment where I'm trying to sort of trying to to kind of like get your approval or reach out to you, there's still like that moment. You're still playing your game, which I love so much. Of like, tighten up, do it more, right? Then you clearly don't like me. There's some soft thing about me that you just can't abide, and it just keeps coming out. And I think that's great. That's how it is. Like I always tell students that your game is like a rubber band. Like you may go away from it for a little bit, but you always snap back to your state, and your state is hating me. So even when you're kind of like, okay, he seems like he's getting it. No, he's not. No, he's not. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's great, and just keep turning it back in. It's because, you know, as I think Dave and I said in the last one, it's not about a million different things, just about a couple of ideas, like braiding together. And this idea is I'm weak and you're strong and you hate that I'm weak. And that little bit, like we could do that a million times. Because ultimately, looking forward, I say I'm gonna go home and growl at this trophy. Is that really what's gonna happen? No, I'm gonna go home and cry about it, cry of happiness or whatever. But I'm just sensitive, that's my thing. And as much as I try to play something else, even when I'm trying to toughen up, there's like a little sense of desperation in it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think that all plays forward. And then I think sort of moving on to the next round, I could see you being tough with another employee or with your wife or with your kid, or you could see me sort of trying to be tough in a situation but really being super sensitive with a customer or with some other facet of my life. Or we could see the two of us again, you know, maybe the two of us trying to tandem deal with a customer. You're trying to teach me now customer service or whatever, and how does that work? I think it really lays the foundation for a ton of really fun stuff. And I think that's really about it.
And I even just want to say one little thing about like you reaching out to shake my hand was so great, because like in this scene, maybe because we'd made some choices and given some good gifts early, right? We both had a sense of like our character, our point of view, and so then it's like, oh, we know like the filter through which everything comes. So like all we have to do is put things into that filter. Totally. And so even the choice, the arbitrary, not a super heightening or insane like creative choice, but to shake my hand, I'm like, thank you, great. Another thing I can send through the filter. You could have offered me gum, you could have commented on the weather, whatever you added would have been such a gift to me, and just vice versa.
Right, and I think there's two tips that I'll reference there. One is the hammer, and that is you play everything through the filter of your gift, which I think is really great, but that's totally true. And then also reaching out to shake your hand reminds me of Brian Palermo's tip about how action creates. Like we could just stand there, but I put a little action into it, right? Or you know, you taking the trophy, like all these little actions back and forth, really like whoosh, boosh, boosh, like these little turbo boosters throughout the scene that really push us forward. You know. Excellent. Thank you, Zach, so much. It was really fun. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think, and I'll see you next time.